Welcome back to Nonstop Recap. Today we'll be going over the 2009 romantic comedy, He's Just Not That Into You. The movie opens on a little girl being bullied by a little boy. The girl's mother assures her that boys only mistreat girls when they really like them. We then see women of all ages and nationalities receiving similarly vapid advice. Finally, we cut to Gigi on a date with real estate agent Connor. Afterward, Gigi calls a friend to say it went well. Meanwhile, Connor calls a yoga instructor named Anna to ask her out later. Anna hangs up to buy groceries but says she'll call back. After winning a free cooler, she excitedly hugs a handsome customer named Ben. Connor gets home to find his best friend Alex using his TV, and he frets that Anna hasn't called back yet. He tries calling her, but she ignores his call to flirt with Ben. Anna reveals that she wants to be a singer, and Ben thinks he can help. She gives him her number, and he tells her that he finds her attractive but admits that he's married. Ben then leaves with his friend Neil, assuring him that he can keep his relationship with Anna platonic. Neil arrives home to his girlfriend Beth, a colleague of Gigi's. Beth voices concern that they've been together 7 years and still aren't married, but Neil doesn't believe a couple should have to prove their commitment. Gigi later worries that she still has no messages from Connor, but her married coworker Janine assures Gigi that he'll call. We then get a street interview in which a young woman complains that caller ID makes it hard to spam call a man without looking psychotic. Gigi continues to obsess over her phone in the shower at yoga, and finally at work, where Beth advises Gigi to call Connor first. She does, but her message goes off the rails when she begins to ramble foolishly. Janine again assures her that he'll definitely call. Gigi waits by the phone that night before finally deciding to stalk Connor at his favorite bar. At the bar, Alex is hit on by a coworker named Kellyanne, who he previously had a fling with. He tries to let her down gently, but she leaves in a huff. Gigi arrives at the bar where she tells Alex she's meeting someone and mentions Connor by name. Alex offers to call Connor for her, but she lies and says she's just there to return his pen. When Alex catches her in the lie, she gets embarrassed and starts to leave. Alex offers to buy her a drink, and they hang out talking until the bar closes. Alex tells Gigi that Connor's never going to call, and that men who act like they aren't interested usually aren't. She thanks him for his refreshingly candid advice. At work, she shares this advice with Beth and Janine, causing Beth to worry that Neil is never going to marry her. Meanwhile, Anna tells her friend Mary about Ben, and Mary encourages her to pursue him. Anna calls Ben and pretends she's only interested in her singing career, but he becomes uncomfortable and hangs up. Anna then visits Connor, and it's readily apparent that he has unrequited feelings for her. Beth returns home and asks Neil if he's ever going to marry her. When he's unable to answer, she breaks things off. After another street interview about men playing mind tricks on women, Ben calls Anna and apologizes for hanging up before. We then learn that Ben is Janine's husband, and a discussion about renovation on their house leads to a conversation about potentially starting a family. Gigi exchanges number with a guy named Jared at the bar, but she scares him away when she presses him about when he's going to call. Mary arrives at the newspaper office where she works and brags to her coworkers about a man she met on MySpace, but they don't seem too impressed. Connor then calls Mary about an ad she ran for him, and he tries to ask about Anna but gets little information. Beth gets fitted for a bridesmaid's dress for her sister Paige's wedding, and her sisters try to reassure her that it's okay if she never gets married. Meanwhile, Anna meets with Ben and flirts hard, causing him to voice reservations about his marriage. He admits that he's attracted to her, but decides they should just focus on her singing career. Janine comes home to inspect the ongoing renovations, and she finds evidence that Ben has been smoking. Gigi calls Alex at the bar to ask his advice about Jared, and he tells her not to bother calling him. Alex then goes over to Connor's and criticizes him for pursuing Anna when she's clearly not interested. After Ben attends one of Anna's yoga classes, they go for a swim and agree to be friends. But Anna removes her clothes and goes skinny dipping in front of him. Janine Janine confronts Ben about the ashtray she found, but he says it belongs to one of the contractors. Meanwhile, Gigi makes out with a cute guy, but he makes up an excuse not to set up a second date. She retreats to the bathroom and calls Alex, interrupting his own makeout session. He tells Gigi to run and offers to set her up with his friend Bill. Ben later goes out to Neil's boat, where Neil's been living since his split with Beth. Neil offers Ben a cigarette, but he turns it down. They then talk about marriage, and it appears that Ben may have even more reservations than Neil, despite already being married. At Paige's rehearsal dinner, Beth's cousin Jay gives a toast in which he harps on Beth's single status and insults her age. She storms away afterward, but her father stops her and comforts her. Alex shows up at the bar where Gigi's waiting for Bill and informs her that Bill can't make it. He then tells Gigi that men manipulate women easily by exploiting their love of drama. Janine confronts one of the renovators about the ashtray, but he maintains that none of his men smoke on the job. Meanwhile, Connor tries to kiss Anna at an open house, but she dodges it and leaves. His clients tell him that he won't get anywhere unless he mans up and tells her how he feels. In another street interview, a simple man warns men to watch for signs that a woman's putting them in the friend zone. We then find out that Ben and Anna have slept together, and he admits that he has real feelings for her. Anna later tells Mary that she expects Ben to leave his wife for her. Mary complains that her own dating life is going badly, but she has hopes for her MySpace admirer. Later, Gigi sits at home watching Some Kind of Wonderful when Alex calls and invites her to a party. At work, Gigi tells Janine that she thinks Alex is into her and that Bill doesn't really exist. At the newspaper office, Mary shows off a picture of a guy she met online before checking her voicemail and finding that he's left a musical expression of admiration. However, he accidentally follows it with an identical song addressed to another woman. Janine and Ben argue over floor samples at Home Depot, and he admits that he slept with Anna. He offers to move on to Neil's boat, but Janine insists on working things out. At Paige's wedding, Beth's sisters walk down the aisle with their husbands, while Beth's left to walk down the aisle with a dog. She later sits alone at the reception until she's hit on by an awkward man named Dan, who bores her with excessive new age talk. At Alex's party, Gigi worries over whether she's been asked there as his date. Meanwhile, Paige's reception takes a dark turn when Beth's father suffers a heart attack. Alex finally speaks to Gigi at the party, but he doesn't pick up on her obvious interest, while she doesn't pick up on his obvious lack thereof. When he asks Gigi to help refresh the snacks, she goes overboard by pretending to be his co-host. She then gets offended when Alex asks another woman to help him with the dip. Gigi stays at the party to clean up, but Alex ignores her to play video games with the other woman. When Dip Girl finally leaves, Gigi flirts with Alex before throwing herself at him and speaks as if they're in a relationship. He accuses her of not taking any of his advice and calls her insane. She snaps, saying she'd rather be lovelorn than be anything like him. Beth cares for her father as he recovers at home, but gets frustrated that none of the family is helping. At work, Janine tells Gigi that she believes Ben's affair is her own fault for not being more physical. She then leaves to take a personal day, and we're treated to a delightful interview with a woman whose husbands all cheated on her while she was cheating on all of them. In his office, Ben continues his affair with Anna, preparing to make love to her on her desk. When Janine shows up, he hides Anna in the closet. Janine removes her clothing and makes love to him in his office chair while Anna is forced to listen. At the bar, Alex is flustered and obsessively asks Kellyanne if he's received any calls. Kellyanne realizes he must be girl crazy and tells him that he's feeling exactly what women feel when they get ghosted by men. After Janine leaves Ben's office, Anna storms out of the closet and ends their affair. Gigi later gets a call from Bill, who confirms his existence and asks her to dinner. Meanwhile, Connor goes to Anna's and admits that he has feelings for her. They sleep together, but she seems uncomfortable when he snuggles her in bed. Beth continues struggling to manage her father's house, but she's relieved to find Neil in the kitchen helping out. Janine gets home and tries to call Ben, but he's sitting in front of Anna's yoga studio and ignores her call. She then starts to collect laundry and finds a pack of cigarettes. Janine flies into a rage, throwing Ben's clothes down the stairs and shattering their mirror. As Gigi prepares for her date with Bill, Alex calls and leaves an awkward voicemail. Beth visits Neil on his boat and tells him that he's better husband material than any of her sister's actual husbands. She says they don't have to get married as long as he throws out a pair of pants she hates. Connor shows Anna one of his properties and says he'd like to buy it so they can move in together. Anna freaks out and admits that she doesn't want a real relationship with him, but they agree to stay friends. When Ben returns home, he finds his cigarettes sitting out with a note from Janine requesting a divorce. After Gigi gets home from her date with Bill, Alex knocks on the door and admits that he's fallen for her. Gigi tells him that she thinks Bill might be a better match, but he cuts her off with a kiss. Later, Mary sees Connor at a cafe and they meet in person for the first time. Neil moves back in with Beth, but she finds his ugly pants and goes to get rid of them. He tells her to check the pockets first, and she finds an engagement ring. He proposes and they finally tie the knot on Neil's boat before we learn everyone's fate through an ending montage and a number of post-credit interviews. Mary cancels her MySpace and begins dating Connor. Anna signs at a nightclub, deciding to focus on herself instead of finding a man. Ben shops alone and sees a beautiful woman but doesn't talk to her. Janine starts dating again and moves into her own place where she hangs up a new mirror. Finally, as Gigi and Alex co-host a game night, Gigi reflects that her real happy ending was never giving up hope. Thanks for watching Nonstop Recap.